Hey guys, happy Friday. I hope everybody's doing well out there today. Because I mentioned in a previous video that Fridays were going to be hardware days, if hardware was an option to take a look at. Today we're going to take a look at a device called an Antsle Nano. This actually started a few weeks ago when I found Antsle on Facebook. I was just scrolling through and they were advertising the different server hardware configurations that they have. And so I started following them and I signed up for their newsletter. And then I was just like, screw it, I'm going to email these guys and see what happens. So fast forward a couple of weeks, they actually sent me an Antsle Nano, which as it turns out is a Raspberry Pi 4 with a custom case and a custom OS called antMan. I believe that's what the operating system is called. That is kind of the back end of the dashboard, if you will, that we'll log into to go through the process of setting up different virtual machines on the device. So based on some people I've been talking to, antMan is sort of in a way like ProxMox, where you can basically you install it as your dashboard and then you can set up different operating systems as long as they're compatible with your hardware, of course, and monitor each operating system, set up network IP addresses that are accessible on the network for each of those different devices, that sort of thing. So this is actually pretty cool software. I will say though that there is a monthly service fee for the software, and they are working on the pricing for that. So any of the pricing that you happen to see in this video, kind of take that with a grain of salt for the time being until they kind of get some things worked out. So I think with all that kind of out of the way, let's switch over to my desktop, take a look at the actual unboxing experience, what everything or what comes in the box, that sort of thing, and then we'll jump over, we'll get it all set up, and we'll actually set up an operating system. We'll actually install Raspbian on it as a standalone operating system on the device, and then we'll go so far as to actually install PiHole, just so that we can go through the process of setting things up, setting up the virtual networks, that sort of thing. So I apologize in advance. This video is kind of long. Just the next bit until we get to the end is about 18 minutes. So again, I apologize. It's a long video, but there's kind of a lot to cover. So anyway, jump in, strap in for the ride, and we'll see you here in just a couple of minutes. All right, guys, here is the box for the Antsle Nano. Pretty simple box, nothing on it really, nothing on any of the edges there. But if we open it up, we can see that we're greeted with a piece of paper. It's just a little welcome guide saying, hey, here's how to set it up. If you got questions, there's an email address. You're also going to get another piece of paper in the packaging that's got the root password for the device on there. And in here, it's pretty basic packaging and everything is presented really well. Normally there are bags wrapped around everything here, but I took those off just for a better presentation here, I think. Of course, we've got a power supply. It is 5.1 volts at 3 amps. We get a couple of GPIO header extenders here, and that's because over here on the Antsle Nano, you can see that this is kind of recessed in there, and being able to put this on here will make it easier to get down or to get to those pins if you're doing any kind of GPIO stuff there. So let's go ahead and set this aside, and we'll get that out of the way. So basically this is a Raspberry Pi 4 with the Antsle custom case on there. I'll say it's heavy. It's made of metal. It's super heavy for what it is. And it does a pretty good job, I guess, of dissipating heat because it's got these heat fins on there. They've actually even got a couple of cutouts here for your display and camera. It also includes a 128 gig micro SD card that you can, of course, everything will get installed on there. And everything else is pretty basic. 1 gig LAN port, a couple of USB 3s, a couple of USB 2s, and of course you got a couple of micro HDMIs and a USB Type C. And that pretty much is everything. I mean, again, this is a Raspberry Pi 4 with a custom case and a custom OS on that micro SD card. So let's go ahead and get it set up and take a look at getting some operating systems installed on this thing. All right, so we've powered up, and now hopefully we should get a signal up here in just a second. All right, so that took a couple of minutes before we got this screen. So definitely give it some time when you first start it up, when you first get everything plugged in and ready to go. You're gonna have to give it a couple of minutes before you see anything here. So So I guess we'll just kind of wait and see what happens, what screens come up next. I'm also looking at my desktop here with at my router, looking for any kind of a new device that might give me an idea of what the IP address for the device will be here. All right, so that took about 8 minutes, everything said and done. The light over on the device is still blinking a little bit, so there's probably still some stuff running in the background, but with all of that being said, now we should be able to go in and log into the dashboard. So let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, so here we are on my desktop. This is the URL you'll go to is just http ://myantsle.local. It'll automatically reroute you to the login page. So you should be able to type in root and Antsle, and hopefully that'll get us logged in here. There we go. So we're going to say I don't want to do that now. So welcome to antMan. This is Antsle hardware. We're going to go ahead and select that. This is not third-party hardware. So we'll say this is Antsle hardware, and we're going to put in an email address. And we'll say send token. All right, so that should have sent me an email. So I'm going to do this in a different screen here. We'll double check. All right, so that went to my spam folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to paste this token in. All right, so Anthill is a free hosted account that you can use to manage your servers with Antsle. So I'm going to go ahead. We'll go ahead and activate that. We'll say do that. Use the 30-day free trial, or I can sign up for this for $5 a month. So I've actually talked to the folks at Antsle. I think they're still working on pricing here, so don't let this put you off. I think they're still working on that. I'm just going to forfeit this for right now, and I'm going to use the 30-day free trial. And we'll go ahead and let them use anonymous analytics. We'll say finish setup and reboot. There it goes. All right, so it's just going to keep retrying the login until the device is rebooted. So I kind of dig that. All right, so now we can go ahead and type in root, and our password is Antsle. And here we go. So it's giving us a private IP. There's my public IP. I'm gonna have to blur that. We've got 4 cores being used, or we've got 4 cores on the device. We've got 4 gigs of RAM, and right now it's using 74%. I'm gonna guess that will go down because it's still probably setting some stuff up in the background. So we'll go ahead and just kind of wait and see what happens there. So let's take a look at Antlets. We don't have any Antlets yet. Templates. We do have the option for some templates here. So we can do Ubuntu, we can do a LAMP stack, we can do Fedora, Debian, CentOS. It looks like there's already a template downloaded for Raspbian. So let's go ahead and click on that. Let's go ahead and click on import there, I suppose. Let's see. Nope. Antlets. Let's create an Antlet maybe. So we'll say db test Antlet. The template, we're going to use Raspbian here. We're going to give it, let's give it 2 gigs of RAM. Let's give it 2 cores. And of course, this is going to be on an internal IP address there. So we'll just let it be .10. That's fine. Compression, that's fine. We'll go and create an Antlet here. Oh, okay, so you can't have any spaces. That's good to know. So we'll just hyphenate everything here. And then we'll try to create that Antlet again. Okay, so it's gone ahead and created that. It looks like initially we can start from a fresh backup right there. We could do a fresh backup if we wanted to do that. It looks like it's stopped, so let's go ahead and start it. All right, so we can clone, copy, pause, or force a stop there. Let's take a look at our dashboard. Looks like we've got an Antlet online here. So let's go ahead, now that we've taken a look at how to set up an Antlet, that's going to be just an operating system that's running there. We've got network here. Again, it's got all of our network stuff here, showing which interface we're using. We can set up default gateways, base IPs, how we want to connect by default. And if we wanted to set up a proxy, we could do that as well. SDN, if we wanted to create a VLAN, we could do that. Load balancing, so we can set that up pretty easily as well. We'll go ahead and say later. Port forwarding, we can set up port forwarding here if we want to. All right, so let's go into services. We can see that we've got some services running here at the root. We don't have NTPD running. We don't have virtual logs. So nothing there. Let's take a look. Oh, so that is heal antlets. No, we're going to say maybe later. So let's go into settings then. Let's take a look there. We've got systems, save system settings. We can do that if we wanted to. Pop-ups. Okay, so let's go to the business plan. The server's not currently, but we could cover it with a business plan there. Continue over HTTP. So we've got access to run a console right here. So we'll give this a second to load. I've actually got a different screen logged in. You should want to continue. We'll say yes. All right, so let's do up. If I could type upgrade Edge Linux. Okay, so that's the most current version. So we'll say upgrade antMan. Oops. And it looks like it's got yes. We're going to go ahead and update that. We'll say yes. All right, so it looks like it needs to reboot now, so it's just going to go ahead and do that. All right, so we've got a reboot done, so let's go ahead and log back in. Okay, so here we are logged in. Again, it's got all of our information here. Still not much being used on the cores, but we're still using quite a bit of RAM for some reason. I might want to look into that and see what's going on there. Looks like we've got some updates up in the top right corner. Actions, so we can restart the antMan service, we can restart the server, we can shut down the server. So let's go ahead and take a look at setting up an Antlet. So we click on create an Antlet, we can give it a name, but let's see what our template options are. We've got Raspbian that we can set up, so let's go ahead and do that. So let's just call this Raspbian. Like that, we'll give it a gig of RAM, and we'll give it a one virtual CPU. The IP address will be .10. We'll go ahead and just leave everything else as is, and we'll go ahead and create the Antlet. We'll give this just a second here. All right, so it says that it is up and running. So what we want to do then is we want to make sure that we can access this externally, because right now it's got this internal IP address. I guess the first thing we need to do is actually start the Antlet here. So we'll go ahead and click start. So it looks like that's running now. So if we come back to our dashboard, we can actually see that Raspbian is up and running. We've got this internal IP address here. So now let's go ahead and get logged in. Nope, actually, you know what? I lied. Let's do something else first. Let's go to our Antlets. Let's go ahead and log in here. We want to be able to give this an IP address that we can access from the network. So what we're going to do is actually come over here to where it says virtual network. Right now, this is the internal network. So what we want to do is click on new virtual NIC. We want to leave it on this BR0. That's what we want to do there. And then we'll go ahead and click create. Great. So we need to stop and restart it. So we'll go ahead and do that. Let's see if we can just stop it. So we're going to stop it says it's stopping there. And then we can go ahead and restart. Okay, so we haven't actually given it an IP address. We've just given it the ability to have an IP address. So what we want to do is actually pull up our SSH terminal here. So let's go ahead and type in 192.168.1.26. That's going to be the IP address of myantsle.local. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then, of course, as always, this is going to open up here. So we'll log in as root. And Antsle is our password. Now what we want to do is actually come back to our dashboard and make sure that we get this IP address right here. So we'll say SSH space 10.1.1.10, and we'll say yes, we want to do that. And the password here is going to be Antsle, A-N-T-S-L-E. All right, so what we want to do is do an ifconfig-a, and we'll go ahead and drag this down. And we don't really have anything in here that's usable. This is all internal stuff. So what we'll do is we'll actually modify the network interfaces here. We've only got a couple of options here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and delete all of this. And I've got their tutorial right up here. So I will have a link to this down below. So let's go ahead and start pasting some stuff in here. Oops. So we'll say Control O, X, and then what we want to do is restart the network. So we'll give this a minute to restart, and let's go ahead and see if we can't get our IP address, which now should be 1.32. So, all right, so then if we come over here to my router's setup page here, where all of my devices are listed, right there is our device. So then we should be able to open up a command prompt and say ping 192.168.1.32. And now we're actually getting a full response there, so we're good to go. We've actually got our first Antlet set up with a public IP address so that we can manage it from our network versus having to do it on an internal network or an internal console. By going over to here and clicking on the console there, we can actually do that. We should be able to do that from over here in a PuTTY window. All right, so then let's go ahead and open up a PuTTY window here, like so. We'll say 192.168.1.32. We'll drag this up and say yes. We'll only have to do that once. But now let's see root and Antsle, and that seems to have worked. So let's try, we're already logged in as sudo, so we have to do that. So we can say apt update. All right, so that's good. So we can now say upgrade. Oh, if I could spell, that would be better. All right, so then let's do that with fix missing like it suggests. And then we'll say yes again. There just could be something down on the other end. Maybe a server's being non-responsive. It looks like it's trying to do something here. So it could just be that the remote servers are being non-responsive and making this more difficult than it needs to be for updates at the moment. All right, so it looks like I may have run into a little bit of an error there, but we're going to try something else anyway. And just for something simple to run, let's see if we can't set up a PiHole here on our newly set up Antsle Nano. All right, so now we've got our PiHole set up, hopefully. We've got our password right there. So we come over to here. Now we've got this. We can go ahead and click on login and paste and enter. And there we go. Now we've got a PiHole set up with a little finagling in the back end to fix a swap file issue. But we got the swap file issue fixed, and now we've got a PiHole up and running. Okay, guys, there you go. There's how to set up an Antlet on the Antsle Nano device. We even went so far as to get it set up on its own virtual network so that it could pull its own IP address from my router so we could access it without having to jump through a bunch of hoops. So I hope you found the video helpful. Again, this is kind of a Friday thing where we're taking a look at hardware. I've already got hardware lined up for next Friday and possibly even the Friday after that. So I think I am going to keep doing hardware on Fridays. I'll have to come up with some sort of a name like Hardware Fridays or something. So anyway, if you're interested in picking one of these devices up, I will have a link in the description where you can jump over and take a look at that and pick one of these up for yourself. But if you got any questions about any of this, definitely let me know in the comment section down below. Also, while you're taking a look at that, that link. There are a couple of other links that you could take a look at if you wanted to. One of those links is for coffee. That's a one-time tip jar. There's also Patreon, where you can become a patron, and a couple of the patron levels will give you access to a patrons-only Discord server where we can hang out and chat about whatever you'd like to chat about. So I think because this is such a long video, I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here. As always, thanks for your time. I always appreciate your support, and I'll talk to you in the next video.